Africa, the world's second largest and second most populous continent, is wonderfully rich in biodiversity. There are some of the most endangered species in Africa that are in dire need of protection and conservation before it's too late. My name is Jonas Kwekai. Welcome to R&I TV, the Did You Know segment, and here are 10 most endangered species in Africa. The first one is the black rhino. Otherwise known as the hook-lipped rhino, the black rhino is one of the two species rhinoceros native to Africa, the other one being the white rhino. Due to rampant poaching to meet a global demand for rhinoceros horn, wildlife trading and trophy hunting, black rhino populations have been decimated and has driven a subspecies, the western black rhino, Diceras bicornis longipes, to extinction in 2011. Today, there are just over 5,600 individuals left to the critically endangered animal and are limited to just 4 countries: South Africa, Namibia, Zimbabwe, and Kenya. As a keystone species, meaning that they hold a significant role within an ecosystem, there have been major efforts to protect and recover population numbers, including greater habitat protection and monitoring systems, as well as harsher fines and sentences for rhino poachers. The second one is African elephant. In the 1970s, Africa was home to 1.3 million elephants. Today, that number has plummeted down to less than 30,000 in the world. Much like rhinos, elephants have been heavily targeted and poached throughout history due to the ivory trade. Ivory tusks were treated as a valuable commodity and a status symbol. As a result, around 90% of African elephants have been wiped out in the past century. Though much of the world has since banned elephant ivory trading, most notably China, illegal poaching and trading still persists. But with significant conservation efforts, countries like Kenya have been experiencing a baby boom in elephants, more than doubling the population in 30 years. But other major threats to the species remain: human-wildlife conflicts fueled by human population growth and urban expansion, and climate change-induced droughts. The third one is gorilla. There are 2 species of gorilla, the eastern gorilla and the western gorilla, both of which are native to Africa and listed as critically endangered on the International Union of Conservation of Nature Red List. A combination of factors have pushed the animal to such dire situation, including poaching, habitat loss from logging and agricultural development, human conflict, and diseases. In fact, one of the 2 subspecies of the western gorilla, the Cross River gorilla that lives in the Cameroon-Niger border region, saw its population plummet to about 200 to 300 adults. Population recovery efforts can be slow and difficult due to their low reproductive rate, with females only giving birth every 4 to 6 years. Females also only breed 3 or 4 times in her lifetime. The next one is Saharan Cheetah. This endangered cat, but not a big cat, has been pushed to the brink of extinction due to significant habitat loss, forcing the animal to be limited to 10% of its historical range. Its remaining small populations can now only be found in Algeria and Niger, and isolated pockets across the Sahara and Sahel from Mali in the western to the Central African Republic in the east. Additionally, hunting by a growing local population in the region and reduced prey such as sheep and gazelle from the agricultural explosion have also contributed to Saharan cheetah's population decline to fewer than 250 individuals. The next one is African wild dog. Also known as the African painted dog or the African hunting dog, this critically endangered species in Africa is also the second most endangered carnivore in the continent. As wild dogs are highly social animals, gathering and traveling packs, they are incredibly sensitive to habitat changes and fragmentation, which have significantly reduced over the past few decades. Illegally poaching and wildlife trading is rife across African countries. and many African dogs were caught by catch in snares targeted for other animals like antelopes. Despite their impressive speeds, they reach speeds of more than 44 miles per hour. The species have not been able to run away from other threats like human conflicts over livestock, infectious diseases like rabies and distemper, and competition with larger predators like Rhino due to shrinking habitats. The largest population are mostly in southern Africa, where there are less than 550 individuals in the wild, and the southern part of the East Africa including Tanzania and northern Mozambique. Though snare hunting has been made illegal on nationally proclaimed wildlife reserves in South Africa, far more conservation efforts are needed to protect this rare mammal. The sixth one is African penguin. There is a common misconception that penguins are native only to the Arctic, when in fact there is a well-known nesting penguin species that breed in Africa, or more specifically in Namibia and South Africa. Unfortunately, the population of the African penguin is dwindling fast as a result of habitat loss and destruction, overfishing to meet global commercial demand, oil spills, and marine population. The bird's range encompasses many global trading and oil transport routes, as well as warming ocean temperatures. The species has about 95% of its population since pre-industrial times to about 14,700 pairs based on 2021 estimates. In addition, guano harvest, accumulated excrement of seabirds and birds, is highly sought after fertilizer, eliminated their preferred nesting substrate, leaving them exposed to predators, heat stress, flooding, and sea level rise. The next one is North African ostrich. The North African ostrich is the largest bird on earth. Historically, it was distributed across the entire Sahara Desert, spreading across 18 countries. Today, they are only found in Cameroon, Chad, Central African Republic, and Senegal. The flightless bird has been heavily targeted over the past 50 years. Their feathers, meat, and egg are deemed valuable in the wildlife trading market. Much like most of the animals on this list, the ostrich has suffered from habitat loss from human expansion and desertification, a process by which land can become infertile, causing increased food competition with other livestock and larger animals. Since being identified in the IUCN Red List, a number of conservation efforts have been underway to help restore the species, from introducing more ostriches to Senegal and habitat rehabilitation to improving livestock fencing and management. The next one is Dama gazelle. The Dama gazelle only lives about 1% of its historical range and is found primarily in the countries of Chad and Sudan. Despite its preference for arid territories, desertification and worsening droughts from climate change have caused major habitat loss and fragmentation, as well as reduced vegetation for gazelle to feed from, thus increased competition with human and livestock. Prolonged wars in the region have also exacerbated all these aforementioned factors. Today, fewer than 400 individuals are left in the wild. The next one is Egyptian tortoise. Another Saharan desert native and the smallest species of tortoises, no longer than 10 centimeters in length at maturity. The Egyptian tortoise is all but extinct from its original habitat due to the loss of habitat from agriculture and expansion of tourism, and most notably from illegal fur trading. According to the IUCN Red List, the total Egyptian tortoise population is estimated to be around 7,470, but as they are not legally protected in Libya, where the species is mostly found, they are highly vulnerable to further population decline. Despite ongoing captive breeding programs' efforts to reintroduce Egyptian tortoise to the wild, they have mostly been slow and relatively unsuccessful. The last one is Sahara Afanis. This tiny freshwater pupfish, measuring only less than 2 inches long, can be found nowhere else in the world except for the Sahara Desert in the arid Soura River Basin near Mazir, Algeria. Agriculture development, which has caused significant groundwater contamination and excessive water withdrawal and increasingly frequent and prolonged droughts, have severely impacted the aquatic vegetation that the species depend upon. This includes the zooplankton and algae. The freshwater fish remains to be listed as critically endangered on the IUCN Red List. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's all I had for you today. Kaliba